السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. My name is Hussein and I'm an ISGH volunteer, inshallah. Today we have a great event, Zakah Made Easy by Sheikh and Dr. Ma'in Al-Qudah. And he is, mashallah, professor of Islamic finance. He's the CEO and the co-founder of Guidance College. And Alhamdulillah, he's well known throughout the Houston area and the US and basically in the globe, Alhamdulillah. With that, inshallah, I'm gonna just invite Sheikh. Sheikh, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and
Alaikum
welcome.
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Inshallah, anytime. So, inshallah, with that, we just jump into it, Sheikh. Whenever you're ready, inshallah, go ahead. Bismillah.
Alrighty. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم نور قلوبنا بالعلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين ثم أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan for joining this event. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this event and your scale and your hasanat, inshallah, in the day of judgment. Thank you so much for the ISGH for taking the initiative of educating our community, giving me the opportunity to serve. It's always a pleasure to be in the ISGH platform to communicate with our community, whether on site in the masajid or online. Our topic for today will be Zakah Made Easy. I think this is a wonderful timing for us since the month of Ramadan is approaching and coming soon. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a source of barakah and a blessing and freedom from the hellfire for all of us and for all Muslims. Allahumma ameen. Most of us, if not even all of us, prefer to calculate and pay Zakatul Mal in the month of Ramadan, which is a good sign, by the way. It shows that, alhamdulillah, we care about hasanat. We want to do a smart investment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by paying our zakah in the month where the reward is multiplied. Brother Hussein, if I can share the slides, please. There you go. This slide actually, or this presentation has 60 plus slides. I don't think we can go through it slide by slide. Let me just focus on, I would say, the most important concepts of zakah related to us Muslims in the USA. As simple as that. Let me start with substituting zakah by taxes. Rest assured that the tax that you pay to the government is insufficient and cannot be an alternative of paying zakatul mal. You pay zakatul mal as a Muslim, and you pay tax as an American citizen or legal, alien or permanent resident in the United States. Completely two different expenditures, completely two different, concepts. So paying zakah is insufficient from paying tax. Paying tax is insufficient, from paying zakah. Some maybe differences between zakah and taxes. I forgot to say that we are still actually in the tax season. We are still filing and reporting to the IRS, to pay our income tax. So this is a great time actually to discuss both of them. Look at the slide here. Zakah is paid on one's remaining wealth. Say, for example, that in 2021, you made $100,000 straight. Okay. In the month of Ramadan, where you mark your calendar to pay zakah, you found out that you have only $10,000 remaining. The $90,000 have been spent throughout the whole year long. You start your zakah calculation based on the $10,000, regardless of what you have, or regardless of regardless of how much you have made throughout the whole year long. Unlike when you file for your tax, right? You start the math in our example with the $100,000. In the zakah, you start the math with $10,000. Tax rate is progressive. The more money you make, the higher the tax rate or the bracket actually will be. When it comes to zakah, it's a fixed one. Zakatul naqdain, gold, silver, whatever is equivalent to gold and silver, which is cash money that we have nowadays, it's 2.5%, whether you the amount is 10,000 or 10 million, dollars, it does not make any difference. What are the zakatable wealth? What is to be taken into consideration to calculate zakat al-mal? All the cash that you have, whether for saving purposes, for investment purposes, for consumption purposes, it does not make any difference. Whether that money, has been in your position for 1 year only, or for more than 1 year. You have an amount that you already paid zakah on it last year, but you still have that amount. Is it to be included or to be excluded? It is to be included. Whatever takes the rules of money, whether it is actual cash like fiat money in your checking account, in your saving account, cash on hand at home, reported, unreported, cryptocurrency, all the stimulus checks that you have received, all the unemployment, payment, whatever kind of money you have received is to be included. For business people, all the commodities, all the merchandise, or the the goods that you offer to your clients, right? Whether like on the shelf or display items, or saved for future, sale, inventory, it does not make any difference. All the exploited assets, like for example rental properties, you have an apartment for rent, right? That is to be included. You do not include the market value of the condominium or the apartment. You include the lease revenue, the money that you have made out of leasing that that apartment. Any kind of exploited assets could be, for example, a taxi cab, right? The market value of the vehicle that you use, that you offer transportation services through, is not taxable, is not. But the money that you made out of like using that vehicle actually is the zakatable one. Agricultural products are included, livestock are included. I'm not going to discuss those details because they are kind of irrelevant to Muslims in the US. There is another category called the treasury troves. Nowadays, oil and gas business, mining business. Oil and gas business, not for the employees who work for Shell or for ExxonMobil, no. Oil and gas in a sense that if you are the owner of that oil and gas business, then you are the one who's supposed to pay zakah. Employees and professionals actually have different way of calculating zakah. Oil and gas, mining business actually are the same. You might come across different categories where there is no like straightforward evidence in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ showing the zakatability or how to calculate zakah on that particular asset or that particular wealth or business. Silk from silkware, right? There is no zakah on the silkware. But the money that you make out of producing silk and selling the silk and making money is a zakatable one. Eggs from poultry. Poultry is not zakatable, but the money that you make out of producing eggs and selling the eggs is the zakatable one. There is a rule here. There is like a qaida fiqhiyya here. Zakah is potentially due on all products whose sources are not zakatable. One more time. Zakah is potentially due on all products whose sources are not zakatable. In a very simple language, okay? There is no way where you have to pay zakah on the product and you pay zakah on the source of that product. There is no way that you have to pay zakah on the source of the product and on the product itself. It's either or. And of course, we do not go by our own preference or our own desire. No, we go with the dalil. Go back to those examples. Eggs from poultry. Poultry is not zakatable. We do not have any evidence that if you have chicken, for example, that you have to pay zakah on. However, this is the kind of business. You produce eggs, you sell the eggs, you make money. That money actually falls under the category of zakat al-naqdan, and that's why you have to pay zakah on the money that you make. Non-zakatable wealth, anything that is for your personal use, the transportation, the vehicles that you have for yourself, for your wife, for your kids, the house that you live in, the clothes that you have, the food that you store, home, all these different items, as long as they are not for commercial purposes, for for sale, purposes, for making money purposes, they are zakah exempt. Even if you have more than one house, believe it or not, you have a house here in Houston, another house maybe back home, right? As long as that house is not for sale, is not for rent, then it is zakah free. Domestic animals, let me skip it. Tools, devices, okay, anything that you use to run your business. Okay, you have an office, you have furniture, you have supplies, you have machineries, you have trucks. Okay, whatever you use to run your business, as long as those items are not for sale, right? Either inventory or display items or just items for sale, okay, for your clients or for your customers, they are zakah exempt. Agricultural land, for example, we just said that if you have agricultural products, you have to pay zakah. So لا ثانية في الصدقة, okay? You don't have to pay zakah on the land because you will be paying zakah on the agricultural products, and so on and so forth. Property and public trust, anything that is not privately owned by certain individual or certain individuals, right, is not zakatable. We have Islamic organizations, and they're here in the US, in their bank account, their checking account, you might find hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, that money is not owned by certain individual, and thus it is not zakatable. Even if you have an endowment or waqf, for example, ISGH actually is thinking seriously and started implementing the waqf concept, that for every masjid there should be maybe a piece of land or an apartment complex or whatever business that generates income to cover the expenses of that organization or that masjid. Anything that is waqf for the masjid is zakah exempt, because the masjid itself, the beneficiary, is a zakah exempt. Thus, anything else that benefits that masjid or that Islamic organization is zakah exempt as well. Allah forbids if someone got involved in any haram way of generating fund. Money came through forgery, extortion, like taking money by force from others, through bribery, through fraud, through cheating, embezzlement, monopoly, any haram source of income or haram practice. Whatever money generated actually is zakah exempt. In order for you to clear your record with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to dispose that money, just pay it back to its legitimate owner, and paying 2.5% zakah on it will never purify it. Who's supposed to pay zakah? Of course, zakah is a formal act of worship. So Muslim is the one who's supposed to pay zakah, and you have to have a nisab. And nisab means the threshold, means a minimum amount of money or minimum volume of wealth that if you reach it, then you have to consider paying zakah. But if you are still below the nisab, the threshold, then you are zakah exempt. Now, the status of the individual himself, whether that individual is an adult, is a minor, is orphan, does have his parents, does not have his parents, or one of them mentally capable, mentally challenged, it doesn't make any difference, because zakah actually is a financial ibadah and not a physical one. Why? Like minors are not required to fast in the month of Ramadan or to pray the 5 daily prayers, because they are minors, right? Because those ibadat are physical ones. Those kids are not required or mandated to perform Hajj, right? But when it comes to zakah, it's completely different. Zakah is a financial ibadah. So if that minor, if that kid is unable to calculate his or her zakah, then his legal guardian or financial advisor or wealth manager, whosoever takes care of his financial affairs, is the one who's supposed to calculate zakah on his behalf and pay it actually on his behalf. Exclusive ownership, okay, is a condition. You have a very small business, okay, of $10,000, and the nisab or the threshold is let's say $6,000, for example, right? And your share from that business, okay, you have a partner, you have 5,000 and he has 5,000, and your partner is a non-Muslim, so someone who is not like addressed with the rules of zakah. So he has 5,000 and you have 5,000, and the nisab for this year is, for example, $6,000. Your share is only 5,000. You are zakah exempt. You don't have to pay zakah on the business because it is below the nisab. Another criteria is ability of growth, actually or potentially. Potential growth means cash money. if you decide to store that money, to put it in your checking account without investing it, it's still subject to zakah. Even if you have paid already zakah on it last year or last years, as long as this year you still have a nisab, right, threshold. And by the way, the nisab is 85 grams of gold. So you need to do some math in the zakat due date and find out how much is the 24 carat gram of gold, right? Most probably around $50. Simple math: 85 grams of gold times $50, that's $4,250. It means that if you already reach that amount or more, then you have to pay zakah. The net amount after all deductions, as I will be explaining, if the net amount is still $4,250 or more, then you have to pay zakah. Passage of one lunar year means that you don't have to pay zakah every month. I know some brothers and sisters who prefer to deduct 2.5% from their paycheck, right? Can you do that? Yes, you can. Do you have to do that? No, you don't have to. You don't have to. Zakah is to be paid only once a year. Only once a year. So when it comes to paycheck or professional fees that you receive, right? You should not, worry about the cash flow that you experience throughout the whole year long. Just find out how much money you have available, owned, available, accessible to you in the zakat due date in the month of Ramadan. Whatever money is remaining from whatever you have received throughout the whole year long is the zakatable one. You have to have full access to that wealth. So if you do have a kind of income, kind of investment, say for example retirement account, right, whether individual retirement account or employer-based retirement account, 401k, 403 pension plan, whatever the account might be, right? Since you have limited access to it, you don't have to pay zakah on everything that you have in your 401k. And I will explain, inshallah, more just after a few minutes. Threshold versus poverty line. Some people actually get confused. They think that if someone is falling under the poverty line, that individual is an eligible zakah recipient. And if someone actually is on above the poverty line, then he has to pay zakat al-mal. Well, this is inaccurate. This is absolutely incorrect. There is no connection, there is no intersection or connection between the threshold and the poverty line. Poverty line is a governmental / economic standard to determine eligibility of people receiving certain support, whether financial or non-financial support from the government. This has absolutely nothing to do with the threshold. So it's very, very possible for someone to be under the poverty line, yet he or she has threshold, he has reached a threshold in livestock or cash money or agricultural products, like he has a farming business, for example, and he did constitute an nisab. Well, that person has to pay zakat al-mal even though he is under the poverty line. And vice versa, it's very, very possible to find someone who is above the poverty line, yet an eligible zakat recipient. Someone makes $5,000 a month, but the legitimate need of that individual is $6,000 or $7,000 a month, right? That person, believe it or not, is an eligible zakat recipient, although he is way above the poverty line, but still he can claim zakat. Now it's up to the masjid or to the zakah organization to give him or not to give him. That's different, different discussion. But is he an eligible zakah recipient or not? The answer is yes, because he makes money less than what he needs. You have different assets, none of them reached a nisab. You have some cash money that is less than $4,250. You have some cattle that less than the nisab. You have some, crops that are less than the nisab. Do you have to, add up or to combine those different components together to constitute a nisab? You do not have to, because every single category has its own criteria. You wait for the cash money until you constitute $4,250. You start paying zakah on the money that you have, or whatever takes the same status of money. You wait until you reach khamsatu awsuq, right? 1,400 plus, I think, pounds of actual crops, right? Dry crops. then you have to consider paying zakah on that. You wait until you reach 5 camels, for example, or 40 sheep or goat, and then you start paying zakah on that particular kind of wealth or asset that you have. You do not have to be consistent in owning the threshold throughout the whole year long. Okay, you constituted the nisab threshold in the month of Rajab. Of course, we go with the lunar calendar, not with the Gregorian one, by the way. So in the month of Rajab, you found out that you constituted $4,250, and then throughout the whole year long, from that Rajab until the month of Rajab of next year, you experienced a kind of fluctuation, right? The total amount went way above the nisab and went way below the nisab, right? You reached to a point where the cash money that you have, let's say in the month of Shawwal or Dhul Qa'dah or Dhul Hijjah, went all the way down to $500, right? And then in Rajab of next year, okay, you retrieved like you went back to normal, and you do have a nisab. The question here, since you went below the nisab, will that interrupt your hawl? Do you have to start all over? You do not have to start all over. Regardless of the fluctuation of ownership or the fluctuation of the amount that you own throughout the whole year long, if you ended up in the month of Rajab of next year still having $4,250 or more, then you have to pay zakah regardless of what happened throughout the whole year long. Salaries and professional fees. You work as a professional, as an employee. You receive your paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, right? As I said, some people prefer to be on the safe side and to deduct 2.5% zakah every month. They can do that, but they do not have to do this. So zakah has to be paid annually and not monthly. And subhanAllah, there is a hikmah, there is a wisdom behind that, which is to give you the opportunity of investing the money. You need to take a breather. You need to take your time to conduct a business, and that business would flourish and make a profit. From that profit, you pay the zakah, the 2.5%. However, if you decide to pay on monthly basis, no one can blame you, but you do not have to, pay zakah on monthly basis. How to handle the salary and the professional fees? You are a physician. You have your own office, your own practice, an attorney, engineer, consultant, whatever the profession might be. You provide professional service, to your customers. You receive money almost on daily basis. Every other day you receive a check or money from one of your clients or one of your patients if you are a doctor. How to handle zakah on the cash money? As I said several times, do not worry about the cash flow that you experience throughout the whole year long. Okay, your main source of income is your professional service that you provide. You are an attorney and you do not have any other source of income other than the legal service that you provide for your clients or your customers, right? You already established a nisab. Most probably you do have in your bank account $4,250. As long as that nisab is established, whatever you make on top of it will be taken the same rule of the nisab. Okay, zakah has to be paid on the nisab, on the threshold, and whatever is added up to the threshold on an annual basis. This is actually the proper meaning of the passage of one lunar year. Otherwise, if you want to go with the literal meaning that every single payment has to stay in your position for 1 year, you're going to end up having more than 200 to 300 different zakat due date, which is absolutely incorrect. So you just find out, make sure that the nisab is already established. You do have $4,250 coming from the same source of income. Whatever is added up to it will be taken the same rule of the nisab. 1 or 2 days before the month of Ramadan, you received a check of $20,000, and it stayed in your checking account for only 1 or 2 days, and then Ramadan started. Do you have to include those $20,000 in your zakah calculation? You pay zakah on them? The answer is yes, you have to. That is the extra money, the surplus on top of the nisab, is called al-mal al-mustafad, the extra or the gained money. It takes the same rule of the nisab. Jewelry and ornament, to my knowledge, according to the strongest opinion, the jewelry and the ornament that you have, or I'm sorry, your wife and your daughters, have, is zakah exempt. You do not have to pay zakah on the jewelry that your wife has, as long as the value of the jewelry is within the average that other sisters, other ladies in the society have, whatever the average might be. Of course, the average in the USA in 2022 is different than the average in USA back in 1950 or 1960. Nowadays, the average here in the USA is different than the average in Algeria or in Bangladesh or in Jordan or in Yemen, right? It differs from one society to another. Find out how much is the average. If what your wife has is within the average, number one. And number two, for her personal use, okay, there is no profit motive behind it. You do not buy and sell actively in the market, you and your wife. You do not have that understanding that whenever the price goes up, we sell what we have. Whenever the price goes down, we buy like more gold. No, it is not the case, right? Even if your wife does not use that jewelry like, periodically, okay, frequently, even if she uses some of the jewelry she has maybe once a year, right? As long as that jewelry is for her personal use, right? Not for commercial purposes, for buying and selling, then she does not have to pay zakah on it. The vast majority, if not even all, our respected brothers and sisters from the subcontinent, the Pakistani, the Indian, and the Bengali community, they are like strict followers of the Hanafi madhab. And based on the Hanafi madhab, they have to pay zakah on the jewelry. If that is the case, I would say, Jazakallah khair, keep up the good job. Do not stop paying zakah. Keep paying zakah on the jewelry that your wife has. Of course, I mean, the more zakah you pay, the more reward you'll be getting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you ask me a question, okay, do I have to pay zakah? My answer is no, you do not have zakah as long as that jewelry is within the average and for your wife's personal use. There's a big difference between can I pay zakah on the jewelry versus do I have to pay zakah on the jewelry. Of course, you can, but you do not have to pay zakah. Retirement account. This is like a kind of a contemporary issue where if you go back to the traditional, fiqh like books, you will not find a straightforward answer to it. Okay, we have three different schools here. Some people believe that your retirement account is zakatable in full. You have to pay zakah on 100% of whatever you have, regardless. Some people think, or some people of knowledge actually think, that your retirement account is zakah free, okay, because you do not have an access to it. We did discuss this issue within our fiqh council, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, AMJA, and we came up with a conclusion that the most reasonable opinion is that yes, you have to pay zakah only on the accessible or the withdrawable amount. So you go with this formula here. You go with the withdrawable amount, how much you can withdraw in the month of Ramadan. You have $100,000 worth of investment in your 401k. And when you talk to your financial advisor, ask him how much I can withdraw if I'm to apply for hardship, or sometimes they call it emergency. He said, okay, you have an access up to 50%. So the withdrawable amount that you have, is 50,000. That 50,000 is not the take-home amount, right? This is the gross amount. If you decide to proceed, you will be penalized. You will be charged maybe interest, processing fees, tax. Sometimes you do the math, you deduct all these different deductions, and the net amount is the zakatable one. If you want to be in the safe side, you pay zakah on that net amount based on 2.5% zakah rate. And if you want to go with the book and not to pay anything on top of the zakah, then you still can deduct another 15 to 20% fixed assets from that amount, and you pay zakah on the rest. Why those 15 to 20%, maybe 10, 15%? Because the stocks that you have in your portfolio and the retirement account do not represent Commodities and merchandise, 100%. Every single company does have its own fixed assets, like offices, like machineries, like tools, devices, software, computers, furniture, and so on and so forth. So you can deduct 15, 20%, and you pay zakah on the rest. What if you think that this opinion is the most reasonable one, but you did not apply it for the last 15, 20 years? Do you have to backdate your zakah calculation and to pay for the last 15, 20 years? You do not have to. This is the kind of ijtihad, like independent reasoning. We as a fiqh council, we might be right, we might be wrong, Allahu Akbar. But to the best of our knowledge, this is the most reasonable approach. You go with the withdrawable amount minus any prescribed penalty, any prescribed tax, and the net actually is the zakatable amount. If you think that this is the most reasonable approach when it comes to retirement fund, maybe you can apply it from now on. We do have a lot of financial instruments in the stock market. Okay, now let's talk about investing in the stock market away from the 401k or 403 or any kind of retirement account. By the way, if you do have a pension plan, most probably you won't be having an access to it. There's nothing called like hardship or emergency or you cannot withdraw from your pension plan. If that is proven, then your pension plan actually is zakah exempt. You wait until the age of retirement, or Allah forbids, in case of like death or disability, then you will be having an access to that, to that account. Financial instruments could be stocks, could be bonds, could be derivatives, could be options, could be futures. I would highly recommend that you stay away from any kind of futures, any kind of options whatsoever, and of course, make no mistake about it, any kind of bonds. Bond actually is an interest-bearing loan. You are not supposed to trade in bonds in the stock market. It means that you lend the federal government certain amount of money. Upon the maturity of that bond, you will be getting your principal back plus a certain amount that's interest. So bond is not an option for fact. The vast majority, maybe 99% of the options and futures and derivatives, CDS, CDO, whatever the future might be or the derivatives might be, are not an option for you. Limit yourself to stocks and only stocks. Not only that, stocks belong to companies where their core business, their main business, is a halal one. Generally speaking, you have an investment in the stock market outside your retirement account. If you are happy with the dividend that you make, right? You do not trade, you do not speculate, you do not buy and sell on a regular basis. Then you don't have to pay zakah on the book value or the market value of the account. You pay zakah on the dividend only. Now, if you treat the stocks that you have as a trading assets, all the stocks that you have in your account, whether a brokerage account or mutual fund or a simple investment account, you treat them as trading assets. Everything is for sale, and you keep like watching the news and you pay and you buy and you sell. If that is the case, then you have to pay zakah on the market value, okay, on the like book value of the account that you have, and the profit or the dividend as well. So it depends on your practice. If you consider what you have as an exploited asset, right? Stocks are not for sale. Okay, you are just happy with the dividend that you make, then you pay zakah on the dividend. If you trade in the stocks that you have on a regular basis, you are active in the market, then you have to pay zakah on everything. What if you did not know that trading in bonds or owning bonds is haram, right? You did not know that, and now you know that bond is an interest-bearing loan. Wait until the maturity of that bond. Whenever you receive the principal and the interest, you pay zakah on the principal, and you get rid of the interest. Interest actually is haram. You cannot benefit, you cannot utilize that money for yourself and for your dependents. While the principal itself actually is the zakatable one. Options, futures, derivatives, as I said, stay away from them. if you already lended money to someone, you are the lender. Okay, do not pay zakah on that money until you receive it. Once you receive the loan back, once the borrower pay you back the money, you wait for 1 complete year and then you pay zakah on it. Now for the borrower himself, if he borrowed from you $10,000 and he kept that money in his possession and his ownership for 1 complete year, then he has to pay zakah on it, right? Okay. Whenever you, as a lender, whenever you receive the money, you wait for 1 complete year and then you pay zakah on it. Every single payable, as long as it is due in the month of Ramadan, it is deductible. You ended up having $25,000 money, okay, in your checking account, cash in hand at home, $25,000. This is actually the virtual pool of money, the virtual pool of money, or zakatable money. However, you found out that by the beginning of Ramadan, you did not finish paying the IRS your tax. You still owe IRS another $3,000. You put them aside. You deduct them from the $25,000 that you have. You still owe the mortgage company, and I'm not talking about mortgage whether it is haram or halal. That's a different discussion. Talking about the deductibility of the mortgage payment, right? You found out that you have $2,000 monthly payment. You put it aside. You deduct it from the $25,000. You still have to pay $500 for the furniture, another $500 or $700 for the car. Everything that is due in that particular month of Ramadan is deductible. Whether that transaction is haram or halal, it doesn't make any difference. However, you cannot deduct the outstanding balance that you owe the mortgage company for the next 10, 15 years. Only and only the monthly payment that you have to pay. Business people actually ask about determining the value of the asset. Someone has a car dealership business. Some people prefer to go with what is called the book value or the invoice value. How much he already paid for those cars, okay? And he pays zakah based on whatever he has paid. That's called the book value or the invoice value. Some people, pay zakah based on the retail value, which is the listing price, how much you are asking for, okay? Asking, price for your customers to pay, to sell them the car. None of those two different ways actually is accurate enough. Do not go with the invoice value, because the invoice value might reflect the actual value, maybe more, maybe less, especially if you are involved in like food business or a snack business. Sometimes you make an order $5,000 a snack. For some reason the snack is not sold, it got expired, right? Expired means its market value is zero. Okay, it's not fair to pay zakah on $5,000 invoice value while the market value in the zakat due date is zero, because the food or the snack is expired. So do not pay zakah based on the invoice value. Do not pay zakah based on the retail value, because this is the expected amount. I mean, this is what you are asking for. You might receive that money and you might not receive it. So wait until you receive the money and then you pay zakah. Now, the best way or the most accurate and fair way is to go with the wholesale market value. Wholesale market value means that if you do not have all these cars in your parking lot, right, in the zakat due date, how much you are willing to pay to the auction at that day to buy all these cars, right? If you do not have any grocery items in your grocery store, how much you are willing, okay, to pay to the suppliers or to the wholesalers to buy all the items that you have in your store, right? Whatever amount you determine based on your math, based on your calculation, is the zakatable amount. So go with the wholesale market value. I'll skip the agricultural products and the livestock. It has like a lot of details. I don't think like we Muslims here in this society actually concerned about those two different categories. Zakah is to be paid for al-fuqara and al-masakin and the zakah workers, for new Muslims, even if they are not that need individuals, just to strengthen their faith and to increase their level of loyalty and sense of belonging to the Muslim community. Those in bondage, the debt-ridden, al-gharimin. If someone actually is debt-ridden, not only in debt, no, debt-ridden in a sense that he borrowed money for a legitimate reason, he cannot save from his own income to pay it off, and that loan, that debt or loan is due, right? That person actually can ask or an eligible zakah recipient. Fi sabilillah means for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It does not have to be the physical military activities, fi sabilillah, like physical jihad activities. Any kind of effort to establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to protect the Muslim identity, to spread the words of Allah Azza wa Jalla through education, will be counted as fi sabilillah. Different fiqh councils issued a fatwa in different times, right? Starting with the Fiqh Council of the Muslim World League, right? Back in 1405, that's almost 40 years back, issued a fatwa that fi sabilillah as needed could be given to Islamic organizations, especially for Muslims outside the Muslim world, as long as there is a need for the service that Islamic organization offers, okay, to the Muslim community, as long as you trust the leadership of that organization and you see the need, you see the fruit of their effort, and they ask for zakat al-mal, because the donation that they receive from just regular donation and sadaqat is insufficient. As long as they ask for zakah, money to be paid, you can definitely pay zakat al-mal to support your Islamic organization. Based on that, can you pay your zakat al-mal for your local masjid, the ISGH masjid or other masajid that you attend? The answer is yes. Can you pay your zakat to the Islamic school, to the Islamic university, to the charity organizations, to any civic engagement or interfaith again, as long as there is a need for their service, you trust the leadership of that organization, they explicitly ask for your zakat to be paid to them, right? Then you can definitely pay zakat al-mal. When we say that zakat al-mal could be paid for masajid, it makes no difference whether the expenditure is for buying the land or expanding the construction or starting a construction or covering the overhead expenses, the payroll, the maintenance. It does not make any difference. We have to make sure that our Islamic organizations are financially stable enough and they can perform without having any financial challenges. Ibn Sabil, the wayfarers, nowadays I would say for the refugees, and subhanallah, we have a lot of refugees here within the Houston area. So remember those brothers and sisters in your dua and in your zakah as well, under the category of Ibn Sabil. Ibn Sabil is technically different from the poor individual. Poor individual does not have money, neither here in the US nor back home. Ibn Sabil might be a wealthy individual back home, right? But because he is disconnected or stranded here in the US, does not have an access to his or her wealth back home, that person actually is Ibn Sabil. And because of his need, because of his current need while living in the US, despite the fact that he does have a lot of financial resources or wealth back home, that person actually is still an eligible zakah recipient. You cannot give your zakah to a rich individual, for those who can work and make their own earning. Those devotees who refuse to work, anyone who's explicitly stand against Islamic principles. Most according to the strongest opinion, zakah is a religious ritual. It is collected from Muslims, and it's fair enough to distribute that money to Muslims. This actually does not mean that you are not supposed to give any sadaqah or donation to non-Muslim needy individuals. You definitely can pay. It is a devotion, it is a sadaqah, it is a rewardable act. But when it comes to zakat al-mal, I would suggest that you stay on the safe side. You go with the strongest opinion that zakah is a religious financial responsibility. It is collected from Muslims and paid back to Muslims. However, we do have a well-established debate regarding whether or not non-Muslim can take from zakat al-mal. ascendants and descendants. You cannot give your zakat to your parents and your grandparents. You cannot give your zakat to your children and grandchildren, because there is a mutual, financial sponsorship responsibility between kids and their parents, right? Parents and grandparents, kids and grandchildren as well. Your wife, cannot take from your zakat because you have to sponsor him, right? Anyone that you are financially responsible to sponsor him or her cannot take from your zakat. Restrictions on distribution. Let me just go quickly. No maximum amount to give to one recipient. You found out that your zakah for this year is $5,000, right? And you found out that a certain individual in the community deserves that money the most. Can you exclude anybody else and give your zakah exclusively to that individual? The answer is yes. So no maximum amount, no obligation to distribute zakah to all the 8 categories. You can give your zakah only to masajid. طيب إن شاء الله حاضر. No obligations even to give all poor people in the area. No annual distribution is required. Paying on monthly basis is acceptable. Let me just elaborate more here. Okay, approximately every year you pay $6,000 zakah, and most probably you won't find enough cash money in the month of Ramadan to pay 6,000. Can you make an installment, like a prepayment zakah? Yes, you can. Okay, you pay every month $500 with the intention of paying zakatul mal. Okay, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your intention is to pay those $500 from zakatul mal. Of course, you have to make sure that you give your zakah, your 500 monthly zakah payment, to an eligible zakah recipient, right? So by the month of Ramadan, you already paid 5,500. You pay only 500 in the month of Ramadan. Can you do that? Yes, you can. It's not the case. It's not the case if your zakah is 6,000 and you have 6,000 available and you have eligible zakah recipients waiting for your money, yet you decide not to pay your zakah or to make an installment for no reason. As long as there is a reason, you can hold your money. Okay, you put it in an account, like for zakah, you give it to an Islamic organization, you give it to somebody else to pay it on your behalf, whatever the case might be, as long as you do your own due diligence and you make sure that the third party or your wakil, right, representative is trustworthy enough that he'll be taking care of your money, paying it on your behalf to the needy individuals. That would be fine. But you cannot hold your zakah for no reason. Some people might not find enough money to pay their zakah. That's completely understood. It might happen once in a while that you do have your zakah money ready, but you do not have eligible zakah recipients waiting for your zakah. You need to do some homework, some due diligence. You need to ask, you need to investigate until you find out who is the right organization to give it your zakah, who's the right individual to give him the zakah, or to right wakil, to give him the zakah to pay it in your behalf. The bottom line here is that as long as there is a legitimate reason behind holding your zakah, that would be fine. You decided to pay your zakah to a certain family, and you know that the head of that family is not prudent enough. If you give him the whole amount at once, he might misuse the money. He might abuse that money and misuse it, right? Can you hold the money and you pay him on monthly basis? Yes, you can. Can you decide to avoid giving him cash money? Rather, you just buy, in-kind items like food or any supplies that they need, and you send it to that family. That would be absolutely fine, as long as you achieve, a maslaha and a benefit for the recipient, and you do it in a wise way. That will be absolutely fine. Okay, make sure that your hawl, technically speaking, starts by the time that you constitute a nisab, right? Most of us nowadays, including me, we just mark our calendar for the month of Ramadan to pay zakah, which is fine, because in the real life, it's really hard to remember which month of the year, which day you constituted the nisab, right? So we just check our calendar for the month of Ramadan, and we consider it as our zakah due date. You found out that your hawl in the month of Sha'ban, but you do not want to pay zakat in Sha'ban. You want to shift it to the month of Ramadan. Well, for the first year, you pay your zakat in the month of Sha'ban, and you pay one more month extra zakat. Okay, so next year, your zakat due date will not be the month of Sha'ban anymore, will be the month of Ramadan. So you can shift or reschedule or add just the zakat due date. You are not supposed to delay your zakat payment for no legitimate reason. You can prepay your zakat, as I said. Unpaid zakat actually is to be paid as soon as possible, as long as there is a legitimate excuse, for holding it. You don't have to pay your zakat in kind, even if you have like livestock, even if you have agricultural products. If you find out that it is more beneficial for the zakat recipients to give them cash money, include the zakat al-fitr, believe it or not. You can pay zakat al-fitr cash money. You do not have to pay it, in kind. Valid zakat payment, you have to have the proper intention. You have to do your own due diligence. You investigate. You find out, who is that person or that organization that you decide to give them your money. Make sure that you do some homework and find out that those, potential recipients are eligible zakat recipients. You can take care of your own zakat. You can give it to other people to pay it on your behalf. Let me suggest this. Okay, this website. Okay, oops. طيب, if you can take a picture of it. Yes. Okay. Now this is actually an online zakat calculation form. Okay, it has been developed by an organization called zakahfinancial.com. I'm the Sharia advisor of this organization. They run this form by me, and I approve it. The good news here is that it is for free. Okay, you just go to this form. I don't know how to copy and paste it. Can you help me? Suleiman, can you post this slide? Okay, yeah, please make it available for our attendees. Good news here is that this is like a free form. You don't have to pay for it. And the other good news is that you do not have to enter any personal or private information. You don't have to enter your name. You don't have to enter your social security number. Nothing whatsoever. Just fill it out, and automatically it will show you the result. If you have gold, if you have stocks, if you have long-term investment, whatever you have, you just enter the information and the amount, and it will automatically give you an answer. And you do not have to submit it to anyone. Just fill it out, and it will give you like an instant and immediate response on how much you have to pay. This is actually very, very briefly what I have about Zakah made easy for Muslims in the US. Please visit our website, guidancecollege.org, and read more about the degree programs that we offer for Muslims in Houston and actually across the nation. Jazakumullah khair, and thank you again for the ISGH for this opportunity to meet virtually with our brothers and sisters at the Houston area. Jazakumullah khair. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, mashallah. That was a great event. Alhamdulillah. I pray that it was beneficial. And Alhamdulillah, Sheikh took time from his busy schedule to give us this great free class. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, once again. And inshallah, we pray everybody was benefited from this. Inshallah, we will conclude. Inshallah, Jazakumullah khair for everyone who has attended. And we pray that, inshallah, I'll post the link. So please visit that link, inshallah, that Sheikh mentioned. And we pray that this is beneficial, inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك الله وبحمده نستغفره ونتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.